Hi y'all, it's Ashley and welcome back to my simple recipe series. Today we are going to be making a very easy recipe, broiled lobster tail. I know you're probably thinking, how is this a simple recipe? But lobster tail actually takes 15 minutes or less to make in the oven. And is a very simple recipe and is very easy to cook and prepare. In fact, it's as easy as making salmon or chicken breast, even though it's a delicacy. So you want to start by placing 4 lobster tails into a bowl inside of a plastic bag and thawing your lobster tail in the fridge overnight or in warm water for 1 to 2 hours. Keep your lobster tails in the packaging inside of the Ziploc bag. Ingredients you're going to need is 2 lemons, 2 to 3 garlic bulbs, salt and black pepper. You can also include white pepper, cayenne pepper for a slight mild kick. You can also use smoked paprika as well. I didn't use that, but you can also use that. Don't skip the cayenne pepper though. If you add the smoked paprika, add it in addition to the cayenne pepper. Of course, you're gonna need fresh parsley, and you're going to need butter, unsalted butter, margarine. I can't believe it's not butter, margarine. You're also gonna need 2 cutting boards, 1 for meat, 1 for vegetables, kitchen cutting shears, a knife, a fork, and 4 small containers. And you're going to need an oven safe pot or dish or some sort of tray to cook your lobster in. Step 1 is to put your broiler on. So press start after selecting broil. If you don't have the broil function on your oven, you can set it to the highest heating, 450 degrees and up. Now you want to do this step first because it is the most time consuming and laborious part of this entire process. You have to cut up 2 to 3 garlic cloves finely chopped. So you want to start by cutting your garlic clove lengthwise, and then after moving through the width on the small, about like 1 millimeter slices, and you want to cut it finely and chop it into little cubes. Do not save this step for later because you ideally do not want to be cutting veggies or garlic while your lobster is resting on the countertop for long periods of time. So make sure you peel your garlic cloves before chopping them up. I just sped up the process of me chopping up the rest of the garlic. This is a garlicky recipe, so you're using at least 2 bulbs. 2 bulbs to coat the lobster in and 1 bulb to add as a garnish inside of the butter, the melted butter that you dip the lobster in. If you don't like garlic, I'm not sure what we can do with you, but this is a garlicky recipe. Do not skimp on the garlic because the garlic is what gives the lobster its flavor. Y'all, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and leave a like and comment. If you're on TikTok, please follow me. Leave a like and comment. I really appreciate the support. Okay, now that you've chopped all of your garlic, you can take your lobster tails, your thawed lobster tails, out of the bowl that they were thawing in and out of the plastic and their packaging, and you can place them on your cutting board which you designated for meat. This recipe serves 4 and is for 4 pieces. The lobster tails are 2 for $10 from Real Canadian Superstore and 2 for $15 from Loblaws. Now you want to take your lobster tails and press firmly against the underbelly where the small little legs are. That will just loosen up the meat because you're going to have to separate the meat from the shell a little bit later. So you want to take your kitchen shears and start cutting down the center of the top end of the tail right until you get to about where the fins are. Do not cut through the fins, just cut through the shell until you get to where the fins are at the bottom. And this is what it should look like. I'll just repeat that process for you. Cut along the center of the tail. If the meat of the lobster gets sliced from the kitchen shears, which it usually does, that is perfectly fine. It looks good like that. It's perfect for presentation.
Soon as I wake up in the morning, I see dollar signs. It's the only thing that's on my mind. Other than pussy, you can't book me. All these poor faces on me, I feel like cookie.
All right, so this part is a little bit tricky, but you want to take both of your hands, place them on either side of the cut lobster tail shell, and pry them apart, applying about a medium pressure, but even stronger pressure if it is needed. I was a little bit discouraged and I got a little bit anxious doing this because I thought I wasn't going to be able to separate the meat from the shell because it was very hard to pry the two sides apart. But applying enough pressure until you start hearing a snapping sound and the shell physically snaps is the route that you want to go when butterflying the lobster meat. So you want to place your fingers underneath the lobster meat inside of the shell and pull upwards until the meat comes out of the separated shell, which should be wide enough once you've cracked the shell open. I only cracked through the shell once, so apply medium pressure because you want to hear a snapping sound, but you don't want the shell to snap in half for presentation. But yes, use your fingers to pry the lobster meat loose and set the lobster meat on the top of the shell for presentation and so that you can easily season the lobster meat. Just be patient and use the right amount of pressure. Don't get discouraged if it's a little tough for you to butterfly the lobster meat at first. You're going to need to take your finger all the way around the inside of the shell. Now this, if you do see a string that is like a dark gray color or a dull brown color, that is the intestinal tract of the lobster. Just pull that away from the end of the lobster tail and set that aside in the garbage. Yeah, you just need to remove that. Again, this is what the intestinal tract will look like. And this is what your butterflied lobster tail should look like. Now you need to pat your lobster tails dry. And then you want to start seasoning the lobster tails. So you want to apply some salt. If you're using salted butter, then apply very small amounts, like a pinch of salt. Otherwise, you want to apply a teaspoon of salt to the front and back of the lobster tails. Season both the front and the back so that there is lots of flavor. Then you take your black pepper, season the front and the back of the lobster tail meat. You want to use about 1 teaspoon, and that is 1 teaspoon for both sides, not 1 teaspoon for one side and 1 teaspoon for another side. Lastly, you want to put on your cayenne pepper seasoning. Now, I didn't measure these seasonings at all. A general rule of thumb is that if it looks too densely packed on the meat, you've over-seasoned, and you don't want to over-season lobster meat because that just overpowers the delicious flavor of lobster meat. But if it looks like your meat is pale, that means you should probably add some more seasoning. So add that cayenne pepper to both the front and the back of the lobster tails. And then you can start on removing the stems of your parsley, your fresh parsley bunches. You want to slice horizontally on the leaves of the parsley, and they should turn into very small pieces. So finely chop your parsley. You want to put your garlic that you chopped earlier, the 2 or 3 cloves, just 2 cloves that you chopped, you want to put it aside into a container, and you want to add your parsley into that same container. Use a medium-sized container so there's enough room to mix butter in it, because that is going to become our coating for our lobster. So now you want to take your margarine, salted butter, unsalted butter, whatever you have, and you want to take 5 tablespoons of your butter. I'm using, I can't believe it's not butter, margarine. And you want to add that into the container where you have your parsley and your garlic. Next, you want to mix all of those ingredients in the container, so the finely chopped parsley and the finely chopped garlic and the butter. So use room temperature butter for this, and just mix the ingredients together. Next, you want to sorry, we are still mixing. Now you take a spoonful of the butter mixture and you apply it generously onto the lobster meat. So spread a thick layer of the butter mixture all over the lobster meat. Get a nice thick layer. Now you want to apply the butter mixture just like the seasonings to both the front and the back of the lobster meat for flavor. You don't want any part of your lobster meat to be bland. So spread the butter mixture onto the underside of the lobster meat. And y'all, go ahead and leave some simple recipe suggestions in the comments. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, and most importantly, share this video with your peeps. And if you're on TikTok, follow and leave a comment and share this TikTok. Once you have put that spread on the lobster tail, you can place the lobster tail into the pan that you are going to cook your lobster meat in. And again, the oven should already be on broil. It should already be heated up and nice and hot for the lobster meat. Now I'm just quickly showing you how I put the mixture onto all of the lobster tails, put them into an oven-safe dish. And now we are going to put our lobster tails onto the middle rack. It is important that you use the middle rack. You do not want the lobster tails to be too close to where the broiler is, or else they're going to cook too quickly and they won't cook evenly. So apply it to the middle rack for even cooking. Now we can go ahead and make our butter mixture. So you want to chop up some parsley and you want to add some butter to a small container. You can melt the butter for about 1 minute and add about 3 squeezes of lemon juice. This creates a slightly sweet flavor from the lemon, a tangy flavor from the lemon, and a buttery flavor from the margarine or butter. So melt that butter mixture to eat with your lobster. And this is how the lobster tails look coming out of the oven. 4 lobster tails should be cooked in 15 minutes. You cook lobster tails for 1 minute per ounce per total ounces of all the lobster tails. And this is the finished product. You want to garnish with lemon slices and plate your meal. And a generous squeeze of lemon juice on that lobster tail will make it nice and fresh and juicy. So now you guys see that lobster tail is a very easy and simple recipe for you to make at home. I made my lobster tail with chow mein. That recipe is also up on my TikTok and up on my channel. Super delicious. And the broiled lobster tail meat, it tastes sort of like mild salmon, mild shrimp, and mild chicken breast combined. It has a very mild but sort of sea-like flavor. And I also had mimosas with this meal. Now guys, I'm not eating this every single day. This was my birthday dinner, but this is something great to serve to impress a date, for a loved one on an anniversary, or for a significant other. It's a very awesome meal. Now here's my review. Now I have to say, even though I cooked this meal myself, this is by far the best meal I have ever had, including restaurant meals. And I cooked it all by myself at home. So this recipe is a must try. The buttery sauce is one of the best parts. The lemon mixed with the butter kind of creates a sort of sweet flavor, which complements the lobster meat like perfectly. And it's just the right amount garlicky. I didn't add extra garlic into the butter sauce, but you can do that as well if you want extra garlic flavor. And yeah, it was seasoned well. It was a little bit spicy, which I liked. So definitely try out this recipe. It is a gem, and this is good eating, folks. Real good eating. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.